Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Scot Harvath podcast. How you doing today, Mike?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, I am doing great, Chris Furman. What do you think of
Ooh,
that title?
I like how you played that in there. Yeah. We got a quick emergency sesh before we record our normally scheduled Brad Thor pod. We got the title today. What do you
Yes.
think?
I first off shout out to Mark. Mark always keeps us on our toes in the Patreon group chat, one of our biggest supporters, biggest followers. Wouldn't be doing what we do without listeners like him and you guys. So that was the first time I found out in the middle of work today. I was like, oh, damn. I got a couple of thoughts running through my mind, but what was your first reaction? What did you think when you heard that?
No, I mean, I we have no context, so sure,
Right.
I like it. It's cool. It's different. First of all, every as soon as I hear it, I'm like, what does this mean? Without a shadow of a doubt, like what's going to happen, because we've left Scott after this mission in Ukraine. So, don't really know, Brad can kind of choose to do whatever he wants. He's been doing these kind of one-off things with, moving away. We had Rising Tiger, now we had Deadfall. Like, and so I really think the story it can go anywhere. I hope. I wonder if he's setting up like a new arc. Like that'd be kind of cool. I don't know. It literally opened the world as his oyster.
Yeah, there's so many ways this can be taken, and it's different. I think that is the first reaction I had
Yeah,
was this
definitely.
is not a typical Brad Thor title for a Scott Harvath book. I mean, especially the recent ones, you know, free Deadfall, and there was a Free Fall, a mini short story we're about to cover on the pod. Free Fall, Deadfall, Blacklist, Takedown, Blowback. You know, that seems to be Brad Thor's wheelhouse is the short, clippy, and he even said blocky. He liked how Deadfall was four
Hmm.
letters and four
Hmm.
letters.
Hmm.
Brad Thor, four letters, four letters. He's very, very in tune with these dynamics. And so he chooses things very carefully. And to have a longer title, kind of going back to Path of the Assassin, State of the Union, it just seems to have a few more syllables than he's been using, which maybe he wants to say more. Immediately, I was firing off things that I thought Shadow of Doubt could relate to. Let me first ask you this one. Does it have something to do with family? Because we have
Mm.
Scott and Sulvey. She was largely absent last book, but we definitely know she can operate. She's in the intelligence gathering field in Norway, and now she's got this Grechko coming over to her. So, is it something about a relationship? Because Grechko, they don't know he was this Russian defector who
Right.
questioned Peshkov and the Russian leadership. So is there a shadow of doubt either in their relationship or professionally how they're going to approach this mole? Is that going to drive a wedge between them? I'm just wondering, do you think the shadow of the doubt has anything to do with their relationship?
It could. I mean, I again, I have no idea. I hope that we get more of that relationship. I felt that Brad took his time to build it up again, and where it's interesting we're doing this right before covering our, we're going to go look back at the first 10 to 12 Brad Thor books we've covered and thinking back to some of these arcs with the women that have been in the stories. And it's kind of like, does Brad like build these people up and then gets bored of them and just decides like he's not liking where like they fit with the story and then he has to sort of shuffle things around? Like, are we at one of those kind of moments? Does this story like does their relationship have to come to a head? Very intriguing with that.
And same with Nicholas. So that was the other one.
Right.
A baby on the way with Nina, shadow of
Nina.
doubt, whether it's Nicholas and the Carlton group now led by Gary Lawler. So I'm wondering, is
Right.
Gary Lawler having a doubt about where he's headed and what his future is? Was this the right job for him to take on? Is Scott getting too old to operate?
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind.
That's the big one, I guess, right?
Yeah. It
Is
was
that
like,
creeping in?
is
Yeah.
is that, and not that like these books are going to keep going and until Brad doesn't want to write them anymore. So, it's just like a tool, something that you can add in. Like what is Scott's in his late 40s right now? Almost 50?
Yeah, for
Or is he
sure.
50? The one thing I like about Brad is that Brad has actually aged Scott, like through the years. Unlike, I guess Vince was doing that to Mitch, but then he essentially has been in. cryogenics for the coming out like every month with a
Yeah.
new badass story with Kyle. So
But on both of those, yes, you can age them in different ways, and there's been tactics to preserve them for book sales and
sure,
publication
sure.
reasons. But at what point do you move the needle? What at what point do you take the turn where you're going to do something massive, even if it's as simple as start up a training program for Scott or Mitch to become the mentor of the next generation? I feel like both have been hesitant to get over that hump, but there are hints that it could happen at some point. Are,
Mm.
are either Don in Mitch Rapp series or Brad in the Scott Harvath series, beyond a shadow of doubt, going to keep these guys going because they're at full peak and can do it? Or is that going to creep in that age is catching up to them?
Mm.
Do you feel that inflection point should be coming sometime or no?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to look at, the series that comes to mind that I'm guessing did a similar transition to this is obviously Tom Clancy's, like where they did a transition from, obviously the father was well, not really, he's an analyst, but operator slash analyst, whatever he was thrown into, became the president, served as president, and then now his son is now an operator, and there are books solely like with his son, right? So what it'd be really cool to see is particularly with, I mean, we're jumping on like a completely different topic, but I think either one, it'd be cool to see them, have someone to take under their wing. Like, and I feel like in both series, there have been candidates that could have easily fit this bill. A Mike Nash, a one we're going to talk about today with what's his name? Sean Chase. Like he could have been a character in for Scott to take under his wing and bring up in the Carlton group, be this young, player where Scott's like this old mentor. Like he becomes the Gary Lawler type. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
It's always an option. But I think Brad likes writing his badass stories with Scott. So
yeah. All right, well, that's the title, Shadow of Doubt. We even get the date, 7/23, a July release always for Brad Thor. So something to look forward to in the summertime.
7/23/24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you see what he posted? The reveal
Yeah, I did the video.
where that like electronica beat just
Yeah,
drops. Like
that
what
was
is this
pretty.
EDM? Brad going to the clubs now?
Is that you think David produced? You think David made that? We gotta ask him.
I mean, he's always involved in the publicity world with this stuff, but it was just interesting.
Yeah,
I
it
expected some
was.
funk, Brad
Yeah.
and Scott.
Well, all these like book trailers are just. Have you ever watched like one time I went down this rabbit hole and just started watching book trailers of
Oh
like
yeah.
the books we were covering, and they are the most ridiculous thing ever.
Some of them are done well. There are some.
Mm, they're just crazy. Like
Yeah.
whether they're good or bad, they're all like
You just have to keep
on
them so
one.
generic.
Oh
Don't
yeah, yeah. Like
judge a trailer by the cover. They have to be so generic. Just it has to be. There's some big unfolding plot. There has to be drama. You can't get a real hint of what the book's about. It's just a gimmick.
unlike a normal trailer for like a movie,
Yeah.
like that sometimes even gives too much, right?
Right.
So
Right. You can't really do that with a book.
I mean, you could, but you would just spoil it, right?
You'd
Like,
spoil things. Exactly. I don't
right,
want to know that there's a helicopter scene or an oil
right,
tanker or whatever. You want to be
right.
surprised with that. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll
Yeah,
be traveling heavy as we get to July 23rd with the release of Shadow of Doubt.
can't wait.